Hello, it's Lindy. Today we're going to talk about breathing. Breathing is one of those things that seems like it's a little bit of a big duh for a lot of people. Yeah, of course we've got to breathe, and we know we need to breathe to survive. It's the first thing that we do in our lives, and it's the last thing that we do before we leave to go to the other place, wherever that may be. And the thing about breathing is that we take it so much for granted that we really hardly ever work on it consciously. Breathing is one of the few mechanisms in our body where we can control it very much consciously, and it's unconsciously happening all the time. It's not like you have to set an alarm every few minutes at night to wake yourself up to breathe. You just do it. But you could also go to a Pilates class or a yoga class or meditation class or do your own practice at home, and you can be very conscious about your breath. We know that knowing where things happen and how things work enhances our experience of the thing. So take an iPhone, for example. An iPhone's a really good example of, if you understand how it works and how to use it, you're going to be a lot more efficient. You're going to be able to take advantage of that piece of equipment, right? So your body is no different. The two things that I want you to know about where breathing happens in your body are, number one, breathing really happens in every cell of our body. It doesn't just happen in the lungs. So every cell of our body responds to breath and needs breath for its own life, for its own nourishment. The second thing is that there is this mechanical place in the body where we bring air in, right? Primarily oxygen, and we blow out carbon dioxide, and that is in the lungs. So for you, biomechanically, just knowing where your lungs are and how big they are, and then knowing the primary muscle of breathing is going to make your breathing a lot more efficient. So let's look at that right now. The lungs sit inside the rib cage. Most of us are not aware that the top of the ribs is actually up behind the collarbone. So right up here behind the collarbone is the top of the lung, especially when you take a big breath in. The bottom of the lung is around the bottom of the rib cage. Now that varies depending on your structure, the way you breathe, and the movement of your diaphragm. If you're a very shallow breather, you tend to focus your breathing kind of between the collarbone and the first couple ribs because you're not expanding the whole rib cage. So just in your own body, just imagine from just behind the collarbone all the way down almost to your waist, especially on the outside, that's lung space, and that's lung space that you can use. The size of the lungs is huge. If we laid the lung tissue out, it's bigger than a football field. That's a lot of space. The second thing that I want you to know is that the diaphragm is the primary muscle of breathing. Now we're going to post a really great video image of the diaphragm in movement so that you can see what happens. But know that the diaphragm attaches all the way around the inside of the rib cage from front to back, and it actually has little legs, little stems that attach onto the spine itself. The diaphragm is three-dimensional. It's like a big parachute or an umbrella. And as we inhale and exhale, it moves up and down like a piston. So take a couple breaths right now, in through your nose, out through your nose. As you take a big breath in, can you imagine that your diaphragm drops down as your ribs expand? Hold that breath for a second or two, and then as you exhale, can you imagine that the lungs get smaller as the diaphragm rises inside your rib cage? Just getting that image for breathing is going to make your breath more efficient, bring more nourishment to your tissues, especially the tissues up here in the brain, which are fairly important, and allow you to blow off more toxins. Practice that today, and happy breathing.